All right, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Hiker Sessions. And today I'm very excited. One of the people that I was probably closest to on the trail, Solar, he's joining us today from a very much warmer climate than I'm sitting at. He's back in Florida. So Solar, thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate it. Solar and I met, I think it was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, going up this semi-steep slope out of Irwin, Tennessee. It was pouring rain, like so hard you couldn't see. And I remember coming up behind you, and all I could see was a sheet of Tyvek behind you. And I'm like, man, that's a great idea because I'm getting soaked. And we chatted a little bit and, saw each other a few different times at the waterfalls there. We shared a beverage, and then I was looking, Solar had got off the trail for a few days, which gave me a chance to catch up. And we met up again. I was looking here, it was at mile 1451.2 in New York. Is when we met back up. And that was on, I'd met you on May 5th. We met back up July 15th. And we did the next 746 miles together to the summit. And that was definitely my favorite 746 miles of the trail. So I thank you for that here publicly. How are you doing mentally, physically? What have you been up to? Interesting.
Well, it's good to see you, man. I missed the beard though. I gotta say,
Yeah, I know.
It's still weird looking at you without the beard because the only way I knew you was with the beard on the trail. Even by Irwin, you had a pretty good one growing there. I mean, it wasn't full on Santa Claus when you got done, but yeah, you're looking good, man. I'm doing all right. I've definitely packed on a few pounds since I got back to Florida. I think at one point I was up to it, having lost like close to 70 pounds this year, and now I'm probably down to like 50 something. So I've probably put at least 15 back on since getting off the trail, and that's despite best efforts, getting to the Y, working out, doing some exercises. I've been doing a lot of like helping buddies. We had 2 hurricanes here in Florida right as I flew back to Florida, so debris removal and hauling stuff for people and tearing out carpets and walls and a lot of stuff. I'm still not working, so I've just had free time to kind of lend a hand to folks. And despite all that, I'm still packing on the weight. So I think it's just it's a shock to your body to not be on the move, 16 hours a day. So, otherwise going good, resettling with the family and the friends and getting back to some sort of, I guess, off-trail normalcy. I won't call it normalcy because I think, as we talked about a lot, I think that sort of raw way of living is more normal than what we do in this fake kind of buildings and establishments we got going there. But that's all, conversation for the trail. But doing good, mentally feel good, physically, again, feel as good as I have in a long time, even though I'm starting to put weight back on, So.
Yeah. There's nothing. I'm with you with the weight, though. I think I put on probably close to 20 pounds. But again, there's nothing. You can't beat walking 20 miles and eating a Snickers and a ramen to keep the weight off. I mean, you just can't replicate that back in regular life. I like you. I'll never call it real life again, but or normal. I just call it regular life.
Yeah.
So any what I thought a lot about the trail, obviously, and what are the things that we talked about how just raw the trail is and simple. Like, are there any particular things, maybe just the simpleness of it, that you miss? Or like, what do you miss? Either a thing or maybe even an idea.
I definitely miss the challenge of it. Just having that kind of daily challenge. Every day you set out to kind of do 16 miles or 20 miles or whatever it may be. But even if you only do 8 or 10, there's a challenge in it. There's no easy days out there. There's, even in town there, when you take a day off, essentially you've got a list of stuff you need to get done. Back out here, there's days where you can just be a vegetable and not do anything and watch TV or binge whatever and not feel like you've ever really been challenged or accomplished anything on a daily basis. Everything comes so easy. and our creature comforts. So I would say that's the thing you miss the most, or I miss the most, is just having a daily challenge, having to make progress, move forward, continue to build towards that goal. So there's obviously plenty of other things I can set my goals to here. I've got some projects and thing I'm working on, but you're just not driven to do it every single day like you are with the trail. The trail, it's like you gotta keep moving. You gotta keep one foot in front of the other. Out here, you can take days off. You can go work on something else, come back to it. We had Thanksgiving and family in town all week, so I really have just been kind of lazy and bumming around. So that would be the big thing for me, is missing those the challenge of it all, the just daily physical and mental toll that it takes on you, and building off of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. You mentioned a goal, and obviously people on any long trail, on the Appalachian Trail, the goal is to get to Katahdin, or if they're going southbound, Springer. But in trying to reach that goal, what were some of the rewarding moments for you? Other than obviously finishing, because that's the big kahuna at the end. Like those micro challenges or things that you conquered along the way. Anything come to mind right off that felt rewarding along the way?
Yeah, my story probably better than anyone. I really didn't have any expectations that I'd be able to do this thing. For those of you who don't know, this was just a total whim for me. I decided to take a year off of work at the end of last year. I closed my law practice down. I did some hiking and stuff in the first 3 months of this year, national parks and traveling the country. And I got back to Florida in the end of March to take my kids on a spring break trip, and then decided right there, I was going to go up to start the Appalachian Trail. I'd never done any backpacking, never really done much backcountry stuff where I don't have my vehicle or everything. I'd hike out for the night. So I really didn't have any expectations of getting any of this done. I just was like, I need something to do. 2 weeks later, I'm on the Appalachian Trail. So the first challenge was just are you going to be able to do any of it? Just trying to get to 10 miles a day. That was my goal when I set out. I'm like, I know I can do a decent amount. So let me see if I can just get to where 10 miles a day is easy. That took probably 2 weeks. And then from there, once I kind of got off past those first 3 to 4 days where we just had torrential downpour, we had 40-mile-per-hour winds. Once I got past that, and I did on my day, started on Monday, on that Thursday, total whiteout, just nasty weather. I ended up doing 13 and a half miles. And finally at 4 in the afternoon, the sun peeked through for 15 seconds. It's the first time I'd seen the sun since the solar eclipse. And I was like, okay, that was a moment where I was like, all right, you can do this physically at this point. It's going to be about the mental, overcoming the mental thing. So then that was really the first challenge, was physically with my big body and my, old knees, was I going to be able to do that? And I realized within that first week, physically I can probably do this. And from there I went from 10 miles to 12 to 15 to, where I was doing 20s, and then through the flatter states, 25 a day. So physically, that was the first challenge. The mental challenge was, always going to be an issue, I think, for anybody. But especially people who, have family at home, have kids at home, it takes a whole different toll on you. And I had definitely very down moments. I think, the first time I was really I got to get off this thing was in the Smokies. Just my son saying he missed me and was frustrated with me going on the trail, and that was a day I was basically walking to Gatlinburg. When I hit Gatlinburg, I'm getting off, I'm gonna get a flight. And then that day I saw a gigantic bear, massive bear, biggest bear I've ever seen in my life. Black bear, I've seen grizzly, but the biggest black bear I've seen in the wild. And then the next song on my play, on Spotify, I just had Spotify and random. Next song that comes up was Bare Necessities, from the Jungle. there was something serendipitous about that moment where I was just like, okay, like, so, instead of getting off the trail that night, I called him again and we talked and texted and got a little more into it. And we're able to, like, realize, okay, yeah, I'm where I need to be for my well-being as well. And I'm still there for him and close enough by that if something came up, nowadays it's a lot easier to call a shuttle and get off the trail and go home to family. So I stayed on there. And then the other challenge was just kind of the unknown of it all and not knowing what to expect. We had some, snakes and animals and all that I can handle fine. I think obviously the scariest moment was with the woman who had fallen and broken her leg and was hypothermic, and I was able to get through that with little to no training. So I think, it was really those three aspects, the physical, knowing you can do it, mentally knowing you can last that isolated and that secluded for that long, and then be able to handle whatever kind of curveballs come your way. So those were my three main challenges, and I feel like I was able to get rid of those well before Katahdin, which is kind of why I wanted to quit at the end there, but you wouldn't let me. So
Yeah. No, that's really good. You mentioned the mental, and I think the one thing that it shouldn't have surprised me, because I mean, unlike you, I had 2,000 miles of backpacking experience before, and not that I was surprised. I mean, I met a lot of people, not unlike yourself, who just had maybe a night or two in maybe a car camping and just like, I'm going to do the AT. So that surprised me. Not that people could do that and be successful, but I came to find out, and you alluded to, like, the mental part, like not knowing how to set up your tent was way less important to me, right? Than having that mental fortitude. And as I went along on the trail, I'm like, there seems, and especially as we got further, right? And there was, I always felt that at a certain point in the trail, I didn't even know what it was. I'm like, okay, everybody around me now is probably going to finish, right? Unless something crazy comes up at home, or, a bad injury like our friend Pilgrim or something like that. But I spent a lot of time, I think, since being back at home, not so much on the trail, like, what is that commonality that had everybody, young, old, male, female, to get you to the top? Because I think there has to be something there, or am I wrong? Like, there has to be some kind of thing that get us all to the end.
No, I agree. I mean, it's one of those kind of intangible qualities that you see some people either have it or they don't. I think it's a bit of stubbornness, to be honest with you. I think it's, if you really set the goal for yourself, or you really want to see if you can do it, then you're going to do it. I mean, you think of like Bill Bryson, and I finally read his book after I went on the trail. No, don't worry about before, but after I read it, and we kind of saw this in the movie as well, we watched when we were on trail. But he does kind of talk about, like, he only did like 800 miles of trail, but he's like, I did the trail, like, because he went over peaks and he did that part of the trail. But if you really want to do the entire thing, I think there's kind of that mentality of, like, well, doing 800 miles or doing half or getting to Harper's Ferry. I think I agree with you on where we knew the people who got there were probably going to finish. I would say it was about halfway through New York, or once you got around New York City. If they got back on after New York City, they were finishing. But I think it's a level of stubbornness, that comes kind of with the pride of being able to do it and to say, I did it and I did it the right way. And I think that's, for me, it was, I could have gone home at any point and been happy, because there was no expectation for myself or anyone else that I was going to do it. But once it got in me that I could do it, like I said, I got over the physical aspect pretty quick. I got over the mental aspect somewhere around, Tennessee, North Carolina, or South Carolina, North Carolina border. So once I was past that, then it did just become a pride thing, and like, all right, let's finish this thing now. So yeah, I'm sure there's other reasons why people do it. We've got, people do it for the weight loss and the challenge of that. You got your Carquitos out there, me in some aspects, for, physical and mental health. And then you've got some people who just want to do it with a partner or someone, they feel like they'd be letting down if they didn't. Same with the people who, we met a few people out on trail who were doing it for family members who didn't get to finish, or they were carrying their ashes, or whatever the case may be. So there's other reasons why, but I think the overwhelming reason people finish is the stubbornness and the pride of it all would be my guess. So
yeah, fear of failure or things like that. I mean, I guess that's pretty motivating in everything we do. Nobody wants to fail, whether it's a job interview or whatever. The trail's a little bigger, longer task. I've asked, a lot of people ask me, kind of what I think are generic questions. What was your favorite section, things like that. What are some of your favorite days, either hiking or things you did, or just things that, or a vista you stopped and look out, or when you close your eyes and you think about the trail, do you remember wow, I remember just sitting at X place, or anything like that pops into your mind?
I mean, it's too many. It honestly is, at this point, it was all pretty amazing. There's so many things you hit and you're just like we talked about, my favorite will be someone else's worst, just because of the weather and the time of year and whatever happened to you through you're there. So, I mean, that's such a personal thing. I would say to people, just get out there and do it, and you'll find moments you loved and moments that were super special to you. I know a lot of the things that pop in my head are, with you, Sloggy, you and me, just, up there in the whites or whatever, just staring out and just being amazed and awed by it. But it's not just about the views, it's like you said, it's who you're with, or, the experience you had that day, or an animal encounter, or just you would just hit these kind of, euphoric moments of just whether it's hiker's high or runner's high, or it's just the fact you sit there and you smell yourself and you go, man, I've been out for 6 straight days. I haven't had one phone call. I haven't had to answer a spam phone call in a month. You get these happy little washes over you kind of moments. And I talked to you and your family about that when we were at your father's cabin, about these sort of pumpkin pie moments that I call them, where you just kind of try to realize when you're in those moments so you can hold on to them. For people who don't get the analogy, but the pumpkin pie is, for me, it only comes around on Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite things, but I don't eat it the rest of the year because I would get sick of it. So you eat it when it comes up, and you enjoy it, and you take your time eating pumpkin pie, and you really realize when you're in those moments. And there was a few moments, especially as we got towards the end, where we just slowed down and we just sat there and said, we're going to really enjoy today, and it's only going to be 8-10 miles, but we're going to stop at these peaks, and we're going to have lunch, and we're going to check out those waterfalls, and we're going to do all that side stuff. So there's not one favorite moment. I think it's just about enjoying the ride, and people who say, this is the best spot on the AT, hands down. It may be for you, but it's not going to be for everyone else, just based on their circumstances, how they're feeling that day, what they had for breakfast, whether they ran out of Pop-Tarts or not. I mean, you never know what's going to make you up or down. So.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Because even places this place was my favorite breakfast. Another place where no, the breakfast there I didn't like. It depends who they got. You mentioned about who you're with. Going into the trail, I know I listened to a bunch of podcast stuff, so I thought I had a pretty good sense of what the AT community was. Had you put? You probably didn't, because you decided to go 2 weeks before, but either right before, as you got out there, what was your sense of community? Either if you did think about it before, or as you got going, what effect did that have on you, and what were your just thoughts about that AT community? Because we hear about it so much more, even more than the other long trails. That AT, for some reason, seems to, just maybe because it's been around so long. But what were your thoughts on the community?
Well, again, pre-trail, I had no clue. I didn't know how many. I knew it was a very popular trail, so I wasn't worried about being isolated out there. I knew that aspect of it enough, that there'd be enough people that if I fell and broke my ankle, someone would come along. And I didn't carry an inReach. I didn't even have a whistle. I was really unprepared. But obviously, you get to meet the community while you're out there. And then while I was out there, I joined the Facebook groups and that kind of stuff, and the Bricky fan page and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of saw that it's not just the people who are out there. There's this whole, subculture in the United States that just follows the AT and what's going on with the AT. So, really amazing, met some of the most amazing, just individuals with great stories and great drive and determination that, you're going to meet anywhere. But yeah, I didn't go out there necessarily for the community. I went out there for me, for, trying to improve my, physical and mental health, and finding something that I can do that's both challenging and rewarding, which the AT fulfilled that and then some. So.
Were you surprised you were able to make such connections? Or I know for me, my thing, I mean, I was going to start. I said, I'll probably hike alone, probably most of the way, if not all the way. I mean, I'll meet people because you know me, I'm social, but just have these interactions along the way. But then just kind of keep doing my own thing. Like, was that? I don't even know if you put that much thought into it, or were you surprised by how many like close connections you made? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, not knowing, and I'm in my 40s now, it's not like you're making friends every day in regular life, but you can out there, you meet new people every day, and you obviously have a like-minded goal. You're both heading in the same direction most of the time. But, I think really what it comes down to is that people are genuine out there. People are there to help and support each other. I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily see that at the beginning. Like when I first started, again, I was just going out there for some alone time anyway, so I wasn't out there week one really trying to make a best friend. The first people I ran into up on Springer Mountain, it was like a dad and his wife and like their 14-year-old kid. I don't know if they were even through hiking. And there was these two other guys who were just starting or whatever. And as I'm coming up on Springer, the dad is talking about like how the Mexicans are taking over Colorado, like Denver, and they need to round a bunch of good old boys to go to Denver and take the city back. And I had just been to Denver, and I'm like, what is he talking about? And they're literally the 14-year-old son, as I'm walking by, is like, Jesus Christ, Dad, like under. Okay, I'm in Appalachia now. That's gonna be. There's gonna be a lot of that kind of weird stuff. And then the first like 3 nights, like at every single shelter or camp, everyone's just talking about their gear, and I didn't know anything about my gear. I just knew I had a tent and I had a blanket or a quilt and stuff like that. So I didn't like engage. I just kind of sat around and listened to people talk. So the first week I was just kind of like, all right, these are not necessarily my kind of people. Bragging about how much they spent on this and that. It's really not what I was out there for at all. So after that kind of weeded down a little bit, and by the time we got to Irwin and those kind of places, everyone out there was kind of tired of having that, like, their gear conversations and just wanted to actually be real and talk and get to know each other. And, after that, it was real easy to develop friendships, because you'd ask me now after going 2,200 miles, I still don't know what kind of gear I got. It's just.
Yeah, I won't ask you anything about your gear. I know that you changed out your gear
I got a sheet
at Neil's Crossing there.
Yeah, I got a sheet, and I got a tent and a sheet, and and some shoes that may or may not have fallen into a fire. That's about it.
Well, it just goes back to the fact, like, I think people do get caught up too much on the gear. I mean, I'm a hypocrite here. I'm doing a YouTube channel, but there's so many people with YouTube channels just about the gear. And I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you spend on your gear or how little, or even how much experience you has. It just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, just that stubbornness or fortitude or grit or whatever you want to call it, to be able to get to the finish. But gear is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a little not hypocritical, but I have the luxury of not having to care as much, because I was able to walk into Neil's Gap and just be like, just give me what I need, whereas other people, like, you want, if you're trying to do it on a budget, you want to spend the time and the effort to know what you got and test it out and make sure it fits for you. I needed a new tent and a new backpack, and I just walked in and like, my credit card, tell me what,
Yeah.
So not everyone's going to have that luxury to be able to do it that way. So I have no problem with people researching it, but it's the people who, that's their whole identity on the trail, is the gear and how lightweight they are, and shedding weight. For me, it was an afterthought. For me, it's the journey and the climb and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And if you're chilly some nights, then whatever, it makes you stronger.
She was fine.
It makes you stronger. Hey, so we'll wrap up here. I don't want to hold you up any longer. I know you want to spend some time with your kids over through the holiday here. I know you're not a big planner, but any other plans for not even just a long hike, but like any small hikes? I know you said you hit the national parks last January. Do you have many more national parks to have hit them all?
I have 5 left. 5 national.
Okay.
Remaining. I've been to the other ones, so I've got. I think I'm down. I'm down to. No, yeah, I might have 6. I'll have to look back at the list. There's 4 states I haven't been to in the U.S. and there's I think 6 national parks I still have left.
Is that something that like you? I mean, not that you know exactly when you'll do it, but is that something you'd be like, oh, okay, I'd like to bang that out?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll check those off. I'm rebuilding a whole RV I got from some people I helped fix up their house and stuff, and they were just going to get rid of it. So it's an older one. So I've been working on that, trying to get that fixed up. But I've still got my truck that I've taken to probably 40 of the 50 states on its own. I've driven all over the country in that thing. So yeah, I mean, the plan's to get back out there at some point and keep doing that. Plus, I'd like to go get on some international trails and hikes, especially South America and Chile in that area. So no firm plans on anything right now, other than just kind of finishing out the year and spending time with the kids and getting the RV fixed up and road ready. But other than that, probably, if you're still interested in doing something next year, I'll be available at least, a couple months out of the hiking season. So
yeah, that'd be awesome. Look, thanks again for agreeing to do this. I know, like I said, many people that I hiked with that followed my channel or wondering what you've been up to, and it was really neat. I saw a lot of my friends become like want to be friends with you, and I think that a lot of people really had a enjoy. At some point, I was thinking people were enjoying more following us than we were on the trail having fun. I'm like, wait a minute, why are you having so much fun? I'm sweating out here.
Yeah,
but it was really cool to look back on that time, and definitely would like to join you again for some kind of hike. Maybe nothing that long, but we'll find something that works for both of us and get to it. So thanks again for coming on, and we'll talk again soon. All right.
All right, man. It's good seeing you. Tell your family hi and all your friends hi as well. We'll be seeing you in the future.
I will for sure. Thanks, man. See ya.
Give us a lot.